Moana Makana by Susan Brocker. The outrigger canoe sliced through the turquoise sea. Kai sat at the stern watching his friends, Nui and Naho, paddle. He had tried paddling once before, but he was not as strong as the older boys. When he paddled, the canoe just went around in circles. Kai was pleased that at least he was a good diver. He could dive much deeper and for far longer than his friends. The boys paddled out to Molokini Crater, an underwater volcano a few kilometers off the coast of Maui. The tip of the crater rose out of the water like a waking giant. It was one of the best diving spots in Hawaii. Millions of tropical fish lived within the crater walls. The fish were so used to people that they swam up to feed right from their hands. A pod of spinner dolphins ducked and dived along the canoe. Kai put on his snorkel, mask, and fins and slipped into the warm water to join them. Nahoa passed a net and some plastic bags over the side of the canoe. "Catch more of those striped butterfly fish," he told Kai. "They get the best prices in the market." Sure, Kai thought, but they are also the hardest to catch. The butterfly fish swam in schools along the outside wall of the crater. The wall dropped away to the darkest depths of the ocean. If only Kai had scuba diving gear, then he would be able to catch them easily. With only a snorkel and mask, however, such a deep dive was dangerous. But he didn't say this to his friends. They'd think he was afraid. As he prepared to dive, Kai could see the dolphins frolicking underwater. They were playing with a bright red object they had found lodged in some antler coral. It looked like a bag of some sort. One of the dolphins scooped up the bag with its nose and tossed it. Kai took a deep breath and dived after the bag. "Hey, look what I've found," Kai called to his friends when he surfaced. They hauled him into the canoe and examined the bag. It was a simple cloth beach bag with a zipper. When they looked inside, they were all surprised. "Wow, this must be worth $1 or $2, exclaimed Nahoa, holding a thick gold bracelet. Kai opened a locket made of coral and read the inscription, "To Moana Makana, I will be with you always. Love, Mom." There was a photo of a woman holding a little girl with big, dark eyes. "We can sell the bracelet to the second-hand shop in Wailuku. We'll get a lot of money for it," said Nui excitedly. Kai looked closely at the coral locket and wondered if someone missed it. "You should just toss that locket, Kai. It isn't worth anything," said Nahoa. Kai thought it probably meant a lot to someone, but he didn't say that. Instead, he tossed the locket overboard and watched as it sank into the deep water. The boys were right. The gold bracelet was worth a small fortune. Nui sold it to the second-hand shop and split the money with Nahoa and Kai. Finally, Kai could afford to buy the scuba gear he had always wanted. He had managed to scrape together enough money from the sale of tropical fish to pay for diving lessons, but he had never dreamed he would ever own his own gear. Kai made several dives with the new scuba gear. He could dive as deep as 30 meters without having to come up for air. It was amazing, like entering a different world. The coral reefs were colorful underwater cities, shimmering with neon fish and dazzling creatures. But during the dives, Kai couldn't help thinking about the locket. He thought he had seen the name Moana Makana somewhere before. A few weeks later, Kai was looking for his friend's canoe in Lahaina Harbor when he noticed a sleek white yacht moored at the dock. The yacht had been there for some months now. Suddenly, the name on its side leaped out at him. Moana Makana. His heart skipped a beat. There must be a connection between this boat and the locket. A girl about his age was working on the rigging. He decided that he had to ask her about the locket. Kai called out to the girl. When she turned around, he knew instantly that this was the girl from the photo. She was older now, but had the same dark eyes. "I think I may have found something belonging to you," Kai began, and then he was at a loss for words. He bumbled on, saying that he had found a locket in the sea. "I saw the name on the boat. It's the same as in the locket." The girl's face lit up. "My father named the boat after me. My mother gave me the locket a few months before she died. When I lost it, I thought I'd never see it again. Thank you." Kai felt sick inside when he had to tell her that he didn't have the locket any longer. I dropped it overboard by accident," he lied. When he saw the look on the girl's face, he quickly added, "But I'm sure I can find it again. I can dive for it." Moana called out excitedly to her father, "Dad, this boy knows where my locket is." Moana's father came up on deck. His steady eyes fell upon Kai. "Moana also lost a gold bracelet. Did you find that too?" Kai took a deep breath, and for the second time that day a lie slipped from his mouth. "No, I found only the locket when I was diving at the Molokini crater. I lost it again, but I know where to dive for it." Moana's father looked at Kai for a long moment. "It will be like finding a needle in a haystack, but it means a lot to Moana, so we'll give it a try. You're not diving on your own, though. It's too dangerous. I'll come with you." The trio set out early the next morning on the Moana Makana. Kai was amazed at the equipment on board. There were echo sounders, computers, and even a portable chemistry lab. "My dad's a marine biologist," Moana explained. "He's studying the coral reefs to see why they're dying." Kai was surprised. Are they really dying? What's killing them? Moana shrugged as if unsure where to start. Pollution, overfishing, tropical fish collecting, even tourists breaking off pieces of coral for souvenirs. Did you know that a few centimeters of coral reef take more than 100 years to grow? Kai didn't know this. He thought about how many tropical fish he had taken from the reef over the past year, but he didn't say anything. When they reached the Molokini crater, Kai pointed to the edge of the crater jutting above the water. "I dropped the locket near the outside wall, just over there." Moana's father groaned. "That wall drops straight down over 40 meters. It's too deep for you to dive." Kai didn't reply. He reached for his scuba gear and began his pre-dive safety check. When he started to pull on his wetsuit and fit his air tank, Moana's father sighed and helped him into his gear. "I'll be coming in with you," he said, "and attaching a dive line so that we stay connected to the boat." The two divers rolled backward off the boat into the water. They descended slowly, feet first down the line. They were diving parallel to the sheer crater wall, which was covered with red and orange sponges and black coral trees. Schools of bright butterfly fish swirled around them. Kai looked in the nooks and crannies of the wall for any sign of the locket. A scarlet lobster waved a long pincer at him. At first, the water was crystal clear and dappled in sunlight, but as they descended, the light began to fade. Kai turned on his diving flashlight and signaled to Moana's father that he was going down. Moana's father signaled back to Kai to be careful and stopped to wait for him. Kai dropped into the dark depths. It was scary and quiet in the deep. The sea was very dark so far down, and the only sound came from the popping bubbles escaping from Kai's mask. He shone the narrow beam of the flashlight into the crater wall. Suddenly, he saw something glinting in a crevice. The locket. It hung from a jagged piece of rock. Kai reached out for it eagerly. He wasn't sure what happened next. He must have hit his head on the overhanging rock after grabbing for the locket, because he blacked out for a second. When he came to, he felt dizzy, and he was breathing rapidly. He remembered his training and made himself take slow, short breaths. Just then, Moana's father appeared by his side. He guided Kai up the dive line to the surface. "Thanks," Kai said as he ripped off his mask. "No problem," Moana's father replied. "You kept your head down there, where some divers may have panicked." Moana leaned over the side of the boat and handed Kai her locket. She gave Kai a huge smile. "You found it!" On the way back to shore, Moana's father took Kai aside. "I promised a reward to anyone who could give us information about the locket and bracelet. I want you to have it." He handed Kai some money in an envelope. Kai had never felt so guilty in all his life. He looked at the envelope for a moment and then made a decision. "I can't accept this," he said. "I found both the bracelet and the locket. I sold the bracelet and I threw away the locket. So, you see, I don't deserve anything." To Kai's surprise, Moana's father put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Since then you have risked your life to get the locket back, and you have told me the truth today. You deserve the reward." Kai never said anything to his friends about diving for the locket. He knew they would think he was crazy. On Saturday afternoon, he headed out with the other boys to go diving at Five's Caves, just offshore from Maui. The dive site featured caverns and arches made from huge fingers of lava. The older boys told Kai to dive for coral, but his heart wasn't in it. He thought about what Moana had told him about the many years it took for coral to grow. During his third dive, Kai found a green turtle caught on a lava ledge. She was tangled in fishing line and couldn't move. Kai cut the turtle free, but as she swam off, he noticed that her two back flippers were still caught in the line. She didn't get far before she began to sink. Kai swam after her, grabbed her by the shell, and hauled her to the surface. The boys helped to pull her up into the canoe. "She's tangled in fishing line," said Kai. "If we don't cut her free, she'll die." He got out his diving knife and began to cut away the matted line across the turtle's back. "Wait," ordered Nui. "That shell's worth a heap in the market. Let her die, then we can sell the shell." Kai looked at Nui for a moment. Then he sliced through the line and flipped the turtle over the side of the canoe. She swam off, free at last. Kai turned to the two older boys and said, "Take me ashore." The next day, Kai caught the bus to Wailuku Township. He found the second-hand shop where Nui had sold the gold bracelet. He walked in and exchanged his scuba gear and his reward money for the bracelet. When Kai gave the bracelet back to Moana's father, he smiled and told Kai that this was the last gift he had bought Moana's mother before she died. Then he asked Kai if he would like to join them on a research trip to Lanai Island. He needed an experienced diver. I could use your help in the future too, if that's okay with you. You won't need your own diving gear, he added knowingly. We have the latest gear on board. Kai couldn't believe his luck. He grinned at Moana and her father. When do we start? He said.